Well, what are the key ingredients that underpin flourishing communities? We're taking a look at this through the lens of the Community Capitals framework. For more, let's bring in Dr. Ray Bartel from B2Me Australia. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, the last time you joined Ticker News, you spoke about story as an important community resource. Can you just recap that for us today?
Yeah, so the Community Capitals framework, as we spoke about last time, is a model that actually fits within what's called strength-based community development. And the main tenet of that is that communities have got amazing strengths and resources, and the key thing as community development professionals is to understand what those strengths are and to mobilise them towards a common good. And in my own work, I did some work in expanding the community capitals that currently exist in literature. And one of the forms was story capital, and that's what we spoke about in the last session, where story is really made up of different story worlds or storied experiences that might belong to an individual or it might belong to a community. And basically, what story does is it affects how people think, feel, speak, and act. So it can go a long way towards individual action and also collective action in the community.
Now, you've also developed this concept of wisdom capital as a resource for communities. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so if you think about wisdom capital or even wisdom as a concept, in the secular world, there's not been a lot of work done in this area. It's really mainly been limited to the work of psychologists, philosophers, and organisational scientists. So there's been a recent upsurge in this area in terms of management, leadership, and decision making. In the secular, in the beyond the secular world, you've also got theological arenas where, in actual fact, wisdom is something that is very well understood, and that the belief system really is that it is not just something that is something that's intellectual or knowledge based, but it's actually something which is bestowed by God. And so you've got both the secular and the theological approach to it. But when I was in Papua New Guinea, the whole idea of wisdom emerged through the language. And so, as I was meeting with an older leader in a cookhouse, we're having a chat around the fire, and I could see that wisdom was actually inbuilt in the common language in Papua New Guinea, which is called Tok Pisin. And I just kept hearing the word wisdom and wisdom, wisdom. And an example of it was where I was sitting with him, and he said to me, while he was cooking, he said, "You can't cook two rat tails." And I said, "What do you mean you can't cook two rat tails?" And he said, "Well, if you cook two rat tails, one rat tail is going to be undercooked, and the other one might be overcooked. So you've got to focus on just cooking one rat tail at a time." And what I learned from that is what he was saying was that in the governance world, if you focus on too many things, you're never going to do anything well. You're going to basically overcook or undercook what you're working on. And I could see this wisdom that was embedded in this gentleman who had never been to school, but yet he had the capacity to provide great leadership in his community.
So when it comes to wisdom and wisdom capital, why should that be then used as a critical resource for business and community?
So when you think of, great question, when you think of the components that actually make up wisdom capital, the key components are thinking and speaking. And as I got involved in the communities, I started to ask them, what are the different forms of thinking that you have? What are the different forms of speaking that you have? And it was really amazing the sorts of things that came out of this work. I mean, for example, some of the terms that came out was big thinking. Big thinking in a PNG context basically means it has to do with planning. If you think of other words that they used, and I'll just refer to them here, strong thinking has to do with decision making. Right thinking has to do with ethics. Mercy thinking has to do with love and care. And open thinking with being open-minded. They even have language such as one thinking, which is people working together. And then the fascinating one, which I thought was amazing, was the notion of good thinking. And good thinking encapsulates a lot of those modes of thinking, but it deals with the quality of a person's thinking. And running parallel to this, you have forms of speaking which are very complementary to those forms of thinking. And getting to your question, why it's important in an organisation or a community setting, I picked up on what your previous guest, Dr. Zabina, said about diversity in the workplace. And so when it comes to communities or even workplaces such as a board, it's important to make sure you have diversity of thinking on the board. We often think in terms of skills or diversity of representation, but do you have people that can speak in strong ways, can stand up against injustice? Do you have people that can show mercy towards others and think of the people in the workplace and not just about the outcomes of the organisation? And so if you can capture forms of thinking through the people that you recruit, then I think that you're going to be faced with far greater community development outcomes.
Yeah, well, certainly a very interesting concept and great to see how we can apply it both within the community and in organisation structures as well. So thank you so much for your time today.
Sure, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.